All right. Had to cut up a couple pieces out of Eric Crocker's most recent interview here with Josh Harper, which was done just a couple hours ago. I put the link in the description for the full show over on Croc's channel. So make sure you go check that out. There was a lot of good stuff that came from it. This gentleman that he had on the show today, though, is an ex wide receiver for the Raiders. He played for Fresno State. He currently is a reporter, I believe, for the Raiders right now. He was at practice today. His brother is on the 49ers coaching staff. So somebody who's plugged in and knows football for sure. I wasn't surprised at some of the things he was saying when it came to Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. I was, however, surprised at the way that he talked up Trey Lance towards the end here, especially being a guy who was not a big Trey Lance guy, didn't think that he necessarily was going to stick around in the NFL from what it sounds like. And he was a bit surprised from what he saw from Trey Lance today in practice. So I'm going to let him give you the full story here, but I just found this whole thing very, very interesting. Also, I want to say that when it comes to the Sam Darnold, Trey Lance aspect, he really has said exactly what I've been saying the whole time when I was at training camp about Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. Trey Lance is clearly the better quarterback. This is a waste of time at this point. Trey Lance needs to be the number 2 guy. It makes sense that Brock Purdy's the number 1 guy. They need to continue to develop Trey Lance because he's starting to show that trajectory up. And if Brock Purdy, for some reason, is not your future quarterback, at least you can always go back to Trey Lance and see what you've got there before you move on and find a completely different player for this team to run this team as the quarterback. But let's get into it here.
I mean, when Sam Darnold was in, it was either a quick check down or a patting the ball, like I don't know where to go, roll out and throw it away type. So maybe that had a lot to do with it. When Trey was in, the only mishaps he had were fumble snaps, false start, and that one false start. But when Trey was in, he was moving the ball. He was getting the ball out of his hands. He was throwing it down the field, throwing it across the middle for that 10, 15 yard sweet spot that the Niners love. He just looked more comfortable back there and, was able to move the offense. When Sam was back or Darnold was back there, it just didn't look it didn't look fluid at all. And it was just kind of like he was more so hesitant back there.
This is the biggest thing that I noticed in practice, and I talked about it repeatedly. During the move the ball period, that's when they separate. A lot of it can look the same when they're just out there throwing the ball, what have you. Trey Lance usually is pushing the ball downfield a little bit more. Sam Darnold is checking down a lot more. But when they get into that move the ball period, the more important period of practice, every single time, Trey Lance led offenses move the ball. They do it very well. Sam Darnold led offenses stall out. So if you look at the numbers from today, Trey Lance had a lot more attempts. That is likely due to the move the ball period and Trey Lance being able to keep the offense out there, and Sam Darnold is not, and they are stalling out. So interesting context there. Let's continue.
I'm not sure if he's been like that all camp, but it was either a quick check down or he didn't know where to go with the ball. Today, from me seeing this first practice, it looked like Trey was so comfortable throwing across the middle. Last year, watching Trey, I was nervous for him throwing across the middle. It didn't look good. Like his footwork to his release, it didn't look good. Right today, it looked natural. It looked like he was in the motion. Like it looked like he knew what he was doing. He wasn't scared to throw it across the middle. When I look at Trey and Brock, they're not afraid to make mistakes today. They're not afraid to make mistakes. And you've seen, Purdy throw that interception. With Darnold, it's like he's trying not to throw an interception. He's trying too hard to take care of the ball. Sometimes you got to let it go. You just got to let it rip. Trust your instincts, trust your footwork, your arm. Jimmy.
That is something that Vish and I have talked about with Larry and on my channel here, that usually if a quarterback is mistake prone, if they're able to turn that around in their career, it takes a year of them just being a check down Charlie, essentially, trying not to make mistakes. And they lose a lot of that big playability because they're afraid to make mistakes. That's what you're seeing from Sam Darnold. So I find that interesting. Also, again, this is why you don't make sweeping judgments on players after 4 starts or 8 starts or what have you. And you really should give it time because you're hearing not only from the 49er side of things, and I know that a lot of times you don't like hearing it from a guy like me because I'm a Trey Lance guy or what have you, but even guys that are known to not be big Trey Lance supporters in the 49ers community have come out and said that this is the best that Trey Lance has looked. And they've said it repeatedly. And now you're hearing it from the other side of things, a Raiders reporter who was at practice, and listen to what he says here very, very closely. He talks about Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, and Trey Lance, and he makes it clear that he didn't necessarily believe in Trey Lance and was a little bit surprised by what he saw today.
He looked better than Brock Purdy. You know, they were making the same types of throws, but it just looked. Jimmy looked way more comfortable.
Probably like Jimmy looks like the 9-year version of
Brock Purdy is what I'm saying. Yeah, and I'll go to Trey Lance. Trey Lance just looks like, okay, this kid could be special. Like he got something to him. I never really seen Trey Lance throw in person. When he throws the ball, it shoots out his hands. Like it's just and it was on the money today. So like he really changed my mindset of how I felt about Trey. Just seeing him in person, I think he still has a chance to be special crop.
He changed my mindset of what I thought he was. He has a chance to be special. That's some pretty big praise. And that's all we've been saying. That's all I've been saying. I don't know what he's going to be. I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. I'm not even trying to put him on the level of a guy like Josh Allen or anything like that. I don't know. But what I do know is it's so hard to make a sweeping judgment off a small sample size and act as if the talent isn't there, the improvements aren't being made. Whether you like him, don't like him, prefer Brock Purdy, prefer Trey Lance, what have you, you have to acknowledge, just like I've acknowledged, that Brock Purdy played really good football and deserves to be the starter going into week 1. No doubt about it. I would love to hear the other side acknowledge that, wow, maybe I wrote off Trey Lance a little too early. Maybe he is actually getting better. Maybe when there's people in the 49ers media who have routinely gone out of their way to not talk up Trey Lance and are now talking up Trey Lance, and then you hear a Raiders reporter who played football himself, was not a Trey Lance guy, didn't believe in Trey Lance, and he's saying, well, hold on a second. This is not the same player. Maybe, just maybe, we take a step back and we realize we might have just rushed to judgment a little bit too early. Not saying that he's going to turn out to be great, but maybe we should pump the brakes on calling him a bust and these other things. Do what you want to do. I would just say tread lightly. That's it. Just tread lightly.